All right, we're back. It is COMP125. That's client-side web development summer 2016 semester at Centennial College. And it's week 6, part 4 of our broadcast. Whew, mouthful. And we were just talking about regular expressions. We got one to work with our email. Again, some people may recommend to you that there is no proper email pattern. And this looks really, really long. And we're doing it here in HTML. We can also do this exact same pattern, right? We can do this on JavaScript. We can use JavaScript to validate the pattern, right? So when the form event is submitted on the submit event, we can check to see if the pattern, as an example, is correct, right, for each of the elements, right? And if each of the elements' patterns are correct, then and only then will we allow the form to go forward. That's a way of validation, right? Minimum length of 2 is one thing, but we can also put in a pattern for our names. For example, should our names, first name and last name, include any digits? No, right? So that we should take those out. We should pattern that. So let's do that. So an example of that would be, right now, let's check what we currently have. I always check what we currently have before we mess with the patterns. Let's do this first, right? So if I go back to the web, and if I look at my little contact me page, if I put in 11111111 and then tt at tt.tt, which is valid now, right? And if I put 111 and 111, if I click send, no problem, right? That shouldn't be the case. I shouldn't be able to put in 111 on here as well. It doesn't make any sense for me, right? So how do I handle that, right? Well, first I'd like to put a pattern in place. So I go back here, and in my first name area here, I can put in patterns. Minimum length is one thing, but a pattern, you can put in there the same thing. So I'm going to type in the pattern. So square brackets start off for the pattern first. A to Z, right? Plus A to Z capitals, right? A little bit of both. I don't care if the last name and the first name are lowercase. I don't care about that. I don't require that. I can fix that at the back end. But what I don't like is numbers, so no numbers. That's number one, right? Second thing is I can put a minimum length here. So I can say, well, so if I have a minimum length, let's take this minimum length out, right? So I can take the minimum length requirement out and do it all in my pattern. So I can do, well, minimum length has to be 2 characters, right? So there is no minimum length for first name. Let's try it with 1 first, and then we'll fix it and try it with the other one really quickly. All right? So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's go back to the code and try it out. So refresh. So I want to put 1 character in here. It's going to be a number, and then tt at tt.tt, which is totally valid. And we're going to do one of these and send. You can see that it doesn't match the requested pattern because I'm putting in one character. How about if I just do 1 character, capitals, and I click send? It's not enough because I need 2 characters minimum. Now it'll work, right? So that's it. That solved my problem. So front-end validation can be really cool if you do it properly with a pattern, because patterns are a little bit more powerful than just putting a minimum length, right? Let's try that again. So I'm going to do the same pattern, this pattern right here, right? I'm going to copy it. I'm going to replace the minimum length here with for my last name and put that in. So a minimum of 2 characters for my last name. So I've done that. How about a phone number pattern? Contact number pattern also is something we want to put in. Even though we're bringing up the telephone type, I can put in whatever I want. That's no good, right? And again, we saw that there's one pattern for the states, right? Where we can put in some values here, right? So some kind of values, minimum number of digits, followed by something else, followed by something else. And we can try it out. Let's see if I can remember it. Did you? Well, let's do one for Canada, right? So let's say, for example, I want an exact pattern. It has to have brackets for the area code, right? Now you got to tell your user that this is the pattern you want, right? But let's say, for example, I want the following pattern, right? Let's try this out for telephone number. So I want in brackets is the first thing, right? My first thing I want to have is a bracket with a closing bracket. The backslash basically is an escape character, right? That's what it does. It says, here's an escape character for a bracket. So I want brackets in there, right? And brackets have to be required, right? That's the first thing. And inside the brackets, inside the bracket, the next part is a number of characters, right? So a number of characters is 0 to 9, right? Now, if I think about this, this is the first part. This is the second part, right? I need to have brackets. And inside the middle, I want the third part, which is 0 to 9. So can I start off with the 0 to 9? Can I start off with the 0 pattern? 416, 905. It's typically not, but you see what I'm saying? It becomes very challenging if I make it like this, right? Right? So 0 to 9, but this 0 to 9, I want, or digits. Let's say if I go digits times 3, right? Now I can't remember the pattern. See what I'm saying? I'm trying to think about the way to do it, right? And even if I'm familiar with it, let me go back to phone number. So go back to HTML patterns for phone numbers, and I'll see if they have one here on W3 Schools is good, but they don't give you all the patterns you need, right? Like this is giving you the pattern for a password, a specific length of password, like minimum length of 6 characters, as an example. And you want to put passwords in with a minimum length, right? But let's say, for example, what phone number pattern do you have? Here, I'll go phone number. So Canadian phone number pattern. Canadian phone number pattern. Hold on a second. Come up. Right. Let's see what it is. Regular expression. Regex. You can probably find one. Here's a regular expression, right? And this is the regular expression that would work for let's say JavaScript, right? And it gives you the number patterns for all of it, right? So this is a kind of a neat one. So here's my regular expression, right? 2 to 9, D2, yeah. Well, yeah, then you would have to change your regular expression. So it can be one or the other. Now I just want North American numbers because we're in Canada. Let's just say, right? So let's just take this regular expression right here, copy it, and I'm going to go back into for you, what I want you to know is not memorize regular expressions. Look, I don't memorize regular expressions. I just want you to know what they are, right? And this is a pattern, right? 2 to 9. See, it starts with a 2. Doesn't go from 0. Here's the first part, right? And then the second, so up to 2 characters minimum. Look, 2 characters, 2 digits. Yes?
Can you do more than
what do you mean?
have this twice?
Yes. Yes, you can. There's lots of stuff you can do. 2 to 9, hold on a second, times 2, and then 4. Why is it times 2? That's weird. 2 minimum length. Should be 3. Well, let's see what happens. All right. I'm going to trust the pattern for a second. Trust to the pattern. Right? Trust the pattern. Refresh. So we're going to put in tt at tt.com.tt. And now we'll put in some weird number patterns. So I'll say something like 1 and press send. No, please match the number format. Let's try this 416 dash and see how it's still telling me it's wrong. Send. And then dash 555 5555. Oh, that's okay. Right? So you see the number pattern is working. So if I go 416 555 5555 and click send, now it's going to be okay. Right? So that works. Let's try that again one more time. So if I go tt at tt.tt, right? And if I go to, let's put this in here. So 41-545-45. I can do that, right? Let me see if that's correct in the pattern that I saw. Hold on. I need 4 of those. The 4 last digits, 4545, like this. That should work by what it says in the pattern, but no, it doesn't. So about this, 414. Okay, no, it doesn't. How about 455? That works. All right, so see, that's a pretty good pattern. Yes. Let's try it.
Some websites usually automatically fill the dashes itself, and
no, I don't recommend that.
So,
don't put the dashes in. That's that could be a bad thing, because what if your phone number doesn't include dashes, or what if they don't like using dashes, like they like using periods, which is also common. So 416.555.3569 because they came from another country. That's the pattern, right? So dots, dashes, and parentheses for the first part should be okay.
So how we can put parentheses?
Like for example, if I go 416, right, 555, right, as an example, and I go here, right, I should be able to do that. Right? But otherwise, it won't work, right? So see that worked too.
So sometimes website automatically we just put the 10 numbers, they automatically adjust
Adjust it and whatever. Yeah, you can do that. That's on JavaScript. On the JavaScript side, what you do is you take their numbers and reformat it for them. So you have an event, a change event, and once I lose focus and I go over here, I can do it so that when I lose focus, automatically it changes it for me on focus, right? Just because you're asking, let's do it. Let's do a contact number on focus. We can only do one. We only have time for one. So let's do the contact number one. On? Yes. So let's say on blur, right? We're gonna change the contact. We're gonna reformat your contact number to in brackets whatever we got. First, let's see what we get. All right. So an example of this would be if I went back to. It takes a little bit of tricky JavaScript, but if I went to here, right? Here's my contact number pattern, right? You can see that we're using that pattern, and I want to hook into the contact number because it's called the ID is contact number, right? So if I go back to here, and if I go to my app.js and I look at my contact page, because that's the contact page I'm working with right here, right? Then I can do something like this, var, right? And I'm going to call it something like contact number is equal to document dot get element by ID contact number. I can do that, right? And then from there, I can do something like this, var or contact number dot add event listener on blur, right? That's blur. We'll do a callback function, right? There's my callback function to say something like when I blur, I want to say like I want it tabbed away. So console.log. Really, the first part is to test it, tabbed away or moved away. That's one way I want to do it. So moved away. So moved away from that particular site. On blur, that's what blur does. And on focus, it does something else, right? It actually gets focus. So let's see if this works. I'm going to go back to here, right? Hold on a second. Refresh, and I'll start typing. First, let's bring up that window so we can see it. So far there's nothing. So tt at tt.tt. Okay, now here we go. Here's a contact number. Watch. So I focus. That's focus, right? And then I start putting in my pattern. 555, and now it should generate the blur away. See how it generates the blur event because I clicked over here. Even if I tab away from it, it generates the blur event again. It'll generate it over and over again, right? That blur event. So it worked, right? Now that we got the blur event happening, so we've moved away from that form, now we can do something with it. We can see what the value is of my number, right? So go back. So I can say if the contact number dot pattern, right? If it's true, if we get the pattern, if it exists, which it does, we can actually set the pattern too. Like for example, I can say something like contact number dot pattern, right? If I want to see that effect, that there is a pattern for the number, and it's not the attribute, it's the attribute pattern, right? So set attribute. And there's two parts. There's the pattern, so I can set the pattern right here if I want, and then the actual string, which is the regular expression I can put in there if I want. So I can set an attribute, the pattern attribute, just like this, or I can read the value. So I can say something like this: contact number dot value, right? I want to know what that is. Let's print it to the console. So console.log, and then let's print the value of this particular contact number out to the console. So as soon as I'm blur, let's print it out. That's the second thing I want to try and do. Let's try this out. So go back here, refresh, go tt at tt.com, whatever, and then we're not going to go there, but let's say I put in 416.555.5555, and I click away, then I get that number right away on blur, right? Now that I got the number, I can format it. I can take that number, right? And I can play with it. I can look for any spaces or whatever and add stuff to it. I can start reading the number, but it takes formatting, string formatting to do that. It's a little bit of an algorithm to match it up. But once you've got that, you can change the number. On blur, I can change it back to whatever I want. Like, for example, I can replace the value on blur. I can read the value and replace it on blur right away with something else. Like, for example, put the starting bracket on the top, right? So add in the value and put it back. It's the first 3 characters of the value. So let's try that before you guys go. So contact number.value, whatever the contact number.value is, I want to make it different. I want to say contact number.value then is equal to contact number.value, right? That's the actual value of the thing, and I want to add in a bracket. Let's try this out. So I want to say a bracket. So I'm going to add in this, right? I can do this plus whatever it's going to be, right? So I want the first bracket in there. So I know the contact number.value is a string right now, right? And I can parse the string and start reading the string parameters. I can look at the first characters. First of all, I can remove all the spaces, right? So kill all the spaces from the string. So if I find a space, I want to remove it, slice it out, right? I can do that because it's just like an element. And I've got a minimum length of whatever it is. So that's the first part I would do, is remove spaces from a string, right? Whatever the spaces are. If there's any spaces, remove them. So search for spaces. How do I do that, right? Got to do a loop for whatever the length is. Like, for example, my value has a length, right? So let's bring this out. Value.length. Let's try this out. Console.log. I'm formatting my thing here. So my length, what's the length of my value? Because my value is a string value, right? String length. Let's see how long can I do this first of all. Contact number.value.length. And let's refresh and try this again. And I'll let you guys go. And we'll do the things next week. 416, 55. Oh, sorry. Well, C5. Gave it to me already. 654, 5554, or 45, right? And I skip away, I have 12. Why? Because it's counting the letters, the spaces, and everything else. So I can check if my length is greater than 10. So I got 2 spaces in there. That means I got spaces in there. Now I'm going to search for spaces, right? I can search for spaces, and if it's a space, if I can read each one of my elements, I can read a string like it's an array, right? Yes. Yes, I could do that, but I mean, I could do this so that I can convert this into there's nothing in there. Then I can go through. I can use string manipulation and go through to the 3rd character and add in another thing plus a space, and I can reformat my number value the way I want. And an example of that would be,
So what, how I keep the values for the number of?
Well, because if I go like this, if I go 416, 415 space, how many characters are there? 4, right? See, if I go 415 or 416 space 999, how many characters are there? 7, right? Because if I type away, that space counts the character, right? But if I put them together, 416, 999, that's 6, right? So every time I click away from it, I can get the string length. Now that I know how many characters there are, if there's greater than 10 characters, then I can start my loop and go through each one of the characters to make sure there's no spaces. Take those spaces out. Yeah. To do what? No, I don't care if they have spaces. As long as it's a valid phone number, I want to fix it. I want to reformat it, like you're saying, and I can do that this way. So I take the spaces out, put in whatever format I want, pop it back in, right? Not that difficult to do. We'll talk about that in strings. Anything else? No, use value. Node value is the pop-up. It's wrong. Any questions around validation? We started off with regular expressions. We're going to continue to do some validation when we come back from break, and we'll talk about new subjects as well. Next week, remember that on Monday when we get together, 8:30, 8 o'clock in class. Is it 8:30? 8:30 in class. We'll do a review of the test that we're going to do on the Wednesday, this period here. That's regular time. So please attend or watch the Monday's class or watch the video, worst case, right? Because it's important for you guys to know what's required. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.